All right, so you've probably seen those headlines flying around about Prince Harry and Prince Seeiso stepping away from Sentebale.
Yeah?
Like, they've really dramatically taken a step back from this charity they started together.
Yeah.
And it just begs the question of what in the world is going on there?
And especially because it just seems so sudden,
Right.
given how much this charity really meant to them personally.
Yeah.
Like, they founded this in honor of their mothers to help these young people in Lesotho and Botswana who are dealing with some, like, really huge challenges.
Yeah.
You know, the fight against HIV/AIDS,
Yeah.
the huge gaps between the rich and the poor, and the growing effects of climate change.
Yeah.
It was definitely not just some random charity for them.
Not at all. And they didn't just quietly fade out either.
Right.
They straight up resigned as patrons. And from what's being reported, it sounds like there was a pretty big falling out.
Yeah, it definitely does sound that way.
So for this deep dive, we've gathered a ton of info for you.
Okay.
News reports from CNN, Sky News, The Times, the BBC. We've got the official statements that have been released and even a timeline so we can try to untangle all of this.
Awesome.
Our goal here is to really dig deep into these clashing accounts and figure out what the core tensions were that led to this whole mess.
And it's important for you to know that we're sticking strictly to what these reliable sources have reported.
Absolutely.
No speculating, no outside info.
Nope.
Our aim is to give you a clear and organized understanding of this complicated and still developing situation based only on the facts that are publicly available.
Exactly. So let's get right to the heart of it all.
No?
And that seems to be Sophie Chandauka,
Right.
the chairwoman of Sentebale.
Yeah.
Her side of the story is pretty striking.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, her main accusation is that Prince Harry was engaging in what she calls harassment and bullying at scale.
Whoa. Okay, that's some strong language right there.
It is, and when you look at her reasoning, a key point is how Prince Harry announced his resignation. She's saying that he did it publicly without telling her the country directors or even the executive director.
Oh, wow.
And she's arguing that this public move felt deliberate, like it was meant to hurt her and the 540 staff members of Sentebale and their families.
Okay, so it was the way it was done, not necessarily the act itself.
Right, and she didn't stop there.
Okay, what else did she say?
Chandauka even went so far as to say that Harry's public exit and all the media frenzy that came with it was basically him unleashing what she calls the Sussex PR machine against her and the organization.
Okay, I see. So she felt like it was intended to cause harm.
Exactly. And it's interesting that she used that specific phrase.
Yeah, why is that?
Because it suggests there might have been some underlying tension about how Prince Harry's public image was managed and how it connected to the charity.
I get it.
So
So it raises the question of how much influence did his personal PR team have or were perceived to have on how Sentebale operated in its reputation.
precisely. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Chandauka is even suggesting that Harry and Prince Seeiso leaving might have been part of some calculated plan.
Whoa, hold on.
A strategy, as she puts it, to force a failure and then swoop in to save Sentebale later on.
Wow, that's a pretty explosive claim.
It is, and it really raises questions about why they resigned.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if this was the case, it would suggest that there was a lot of strategic maneuvering going on behind the scenes.
Right.
And maybe a lack of faith in the current leadership, specifically Chandauka as chair.
Okay, that makes sense.
And she really stresses the fact that Harry announced his resignation to the press before even telling her or the board of trustees.
Oh, so he completely bypassed them.
Yeah, and she saw that as super disrespectful and damaging, not just to her own position, but to the whole charity's reputation.
That's understandable.
Right.
I mean, if that's how it happened, it really shows a communication breakdown at a basic level.
Exactly.
It also hints that maybe Prince Harry's camp wanted to control how the news of his leaving was presented at first. You can definitely see how that would leave Chandauka feeling like she was caught off guard and maybe even targeted.
And Chandauka alleges that this wasn't just about the resignation announcement. She says Harry's actions were the climax of months of what she describes as trying to push her out of her role as chairwoman through bullying and harassment.
Oh, wow.
And she's even said she has documents to back up these serious claims.
Oh, so she came prepared.
Yeah, that mention of supporting documents is important.
How so?
It suggests that Chandauka might have been expecting this or maybe even recording these interactions.
Right.
Which means there was probably already an atmosphere of distrust and growing conflict within the organization.
Oh, I see.
It also adds a potential legal layer to all of this.
Yeah, this just keeps getting more and more complicated.
Now, this next part is really interesting.
Okay, shoot.
Chandauka claims that things got especially tense after she refused to publicly support Meghan Markle.
Oh, what happened there?
Well, apparently, Harry's team asked her to put out a statement supporting Meghan, and she refused because she was worried that Sentebale would become like an extension of the Sussex PR machine.
So she wanted to protect the charity's independence.
Exactly. She was all about safeguarding Sentebale's mission and integrity.
Yeah.
It seems like she was concerned about any pressure to make the charity's public image match up with whatever the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were doing.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then she takes it a step further by directly linking Harry's departure and all these other events to a whistleblowing complaint she made.
Whistleblowing complaint about what?
Well, she alleges that there's a cover-up connected to her reports of bad governance abuse of power, bullying, harassment, misogyny, even misogynoir within the charity.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. And she's also claimed that Prince Harry interfered with the investigation into her complaint.
Those are some extremely serious allegations, especially for a charity that relies on public trust.
Right.
I mean, whistleblowing systems are there to make sure people are being held accountable and acting ethically. So if someone interfered with that process, it would raise huge concerns about how Sentebale is being run and how transparent they are.
And Chandauka didn't hold back when talking about what happened after Prince Harry moved to the United States.
Okay, what did she say about that?
Well, she brought up his high-profile media appearances, like the Netflix documentary and his book Spare. And she said that, in her opinion, the toxicity of Prince Harry's brand as the lead patron was a big risk to Sentebale.
Oh.
She said it was hurting their ability to get new donors and even to hire staff.
Oh, I see.
She even claims that a financial audit showed a strong link between the charity's financial troubles and Harry's move and his increased media presence.
That's a huge claim.
Yeah, it is. And it's a key point to think about.
For sure.
Because for charities that have famous patrons, there's this tricky balance.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Well, the connection to a celebrity can bring a lot of attention and help with fundraising.
Right.
But if that patron gets negative publicity, it can directly impact the charity's reputation and finances.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So those alleged findings from the financial audit would be super important in understanding if this claim is true.
Absolutely.
She also made this pretty startling claim that the charity's board wasn't talking about the loss of big donors because it was an uncomfortable conversation to have with Prince Harry in the room.
Oh, wow. So, like, they were avoiding a crucial topic because of him.
It sounds like it, which really suggests there was a power imbalance within the organization.
It does paint a picture where Prince Harry's influence and presence might have stopped them from having open and honest discussions about important money matters.
Right.
And that could have prevented the board from dealing with any financial challenges early on.
And it gets even more complicated.
How so?
Chandauka said that when she tried to give more decision-making power to leaders in Southern Africa, she was met with resistance from the board.
Oh, interesting. Why was that?
She claims that some people were worried that the Africans were taking over.
Oh, wow, that's concerning.
It's a deeply worrying statement.
Yeah.
It raises questions about the attitudes within the organization.
It does. Yeah. And it suggests a fundamental disagreement about Sentebale's future and who should be running things on the ground.
Yeah. And lastly, she talked about the Miami polo event from earlier this year.
Right.
She went into detail about how Prince Harry wanted to bring a Netflix film crew.
Really?
And how Meghan Markle showed up unexpectedly with a very famous friend.
Oh, wow.
And then there was this request for Chandauka to release a statement supporting Meghan's PR efforts.
Okay, so it sounds like that event might have been a big source of tension.
It does. The Miami polo event, as she describes it, seems to sum up a lot of the underlying tensions we've been talking about.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's like the clash between the Sussex's public image and the charity's activities.
Right.
The possibility that the charity was being used for personal PR and Chandauka's resistance to that.
Okay, so lots of layers to unpack there.
Yeah. Now let's switch gears and look at the perspective from Prince Harry and the former trustees who resigned with him.
Okay.
Their joint statement tells a totally different story. They say that their relationship with Chandauka broke down beyond repair, creating an impossible situation.
Wow, so no coming back from that.
It doesn't seem so.
The phrases beyond repair and impossible really paint a picture of complete breakdown in their ability to work together.
Exactly.
It suggests that the issues weren't just small disagreements, but fundamental differences in their approaches or views.
And they specifically said they resigned in support of and solidarity with the 5 other trustees who also quit.
So as a united front.
Yeah, and that united front holds a lot of weight.
It does. It shows that the concerns about Chandauka's leadership weren't just from Prince Harry and Prince Seeiso,
Right.
a lot of the board members felt the same way.
Mm-hmm.
This strengthens their argument that the problems were bigger than just a personal conflict with the patrons.
They also made a point of saying that the trustees had asked Chandauka to step down while keeping the well-being of staff in mind.
Oh, that's interesting.
It suggests that maybe they were worried about how she was affecting the employees at Sentebale.
It does kind of shift the focus from just high-level issues to how the leadership dynamic was actually impacting people.
And they highlighted the fact that Chandauka is suing Sentebale to stay in this voluntary position.
Really?
Further underscoring the broken relationship, they say.
Wow, so she's taking legal action to keep a position she doesn't even get paid for.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
That's pretty unusual.
It is, and as Prince Harry and Prince Seeiso point out, it really emphasizes how deep the disagreement is.
Right.
And how unwilling both sides seem to be to find a peaceful solution.
It definitely adds another layer of complexity and public drama to this whole situation.
It does. And they also said they plan to take their concerns straight to the UK's Charity Commission.
Okay, and remind me what that is again?
It's the group that oversees charities in England and Wales, making sure they operate correctly and are accountable for their actions.
Ah, okay, got it.
So them getting the Charity Commission involved is a big deal.
I can see that.
It means they believe there are serious problems with how Sentebale is being run.
Yeah.
And that it needs an independent investigation and maybe even intervention from regulators.
So this isn't just an internal Sentebale issue anymore.
No.
They brought it to the attention of the official regulatory body.
Exactly. And now the former trustees themselves have also given their perspective.
Oh, okay. What do they have to say?
Well, they've described Chandauka's leadership style as almost dictatorial.
Whoa, that's hard.
It is a pretty strong accusation that she wasn't very collaborative.
It is. It really suggests that there wasn't much collective decision-making going on.
Right.
And that she may have ignored the input and opinions of other board members.
Yeah.
And that can be really damaging to how well any organization is run, especially a charity.
And the accusations don't stop there.
There's more.
Yeah. They've also accused her of bullying staff.
Oh, no.
Which is a really serious charge.
It is.
And of doctoring meeting minutes.
Okay, that's not good.
No, if that's true, it would be a huge breach of trust and go against how things should be run.
Yeah, for sure.
And they've also accused her of spending way too much money on consultants.
How much are we talking?
Around £500,000.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot.
These are serious allegations that get at the core of ethical leadership and responsible money management in a charity.
Yeah.
If these accusations are true, it would definitely raise questions about whether Chandauka should be leading the organization at all.
Absolutely.
The former trustees have also voiced concerns about Sentebale's finances under Chandauka.
Okay, in what way?
Well, they say that the charity's funds supposedly dipped below their own safety net of £600,000.
Oh, wow.
And that they lost a major funder who was connected to the Sentebale Polo Cup.
The Polo Cup is a big deal for them, right?
It is. A charity's financial health is crucial for it to do its work.
Absolutely.
So these concerns about dwindling funds and losing a big donor would obviously be a huge worry for the trustees.
Yeah.
And probably played a big part in their decision to ask Chandauka to leave.
Makes sense.
Interestingly, one of the former trustees, Kalelo Lerathale, has said publicly that he didn't even know about the specific issues Chandauka was raising.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that from what he saw, the board was generally respectful.
So he had a different experience.
Yeah, it seems to contradict some of her claims about a toxic environment.
It does show that there were different views within the board itself about the atmosphere and what was happening.
Right.
Chandauka is describing a really negative situation, but at least one other trustee had a very different experience.
Yeah.
It just shows how hard it is to figure out the whole truth when you have such different stories.
And here's a key piece of info.
Okay, what is it?
Sources close to the former trustees are saying that Prince Harry and Prince Seeiso actually did send a formal resignation letter to Sophie Chandauka and the other trustees on March 10th.
Oh, so they did give them some notice.
It seems so, but this directly contradicts Chandauka's statement that she only found out about their leaving through the press.
Yeah.
So this difference in the timeline is super important. If they did send a resignation letter before going public, it weakens Chandauka's argument that she was blindsided and that the public announcement was harassment.
It makes you question how accurate the different sides of the story are.
And lastly, those same sources close to the former trustees have dismissed Chandauka's claims about Prince Harry's brand being damaging and the alleged attempt to make Sentebale fail.
What do they say about that?
They called it deeply defamatory and nothing more than a publicity stunt.
Whoa. That's a strong rebuttal.
It shows that the trustees firmly believe that Chandauka's accusations are baseless.
Right.
And that maybe she's motivated by something other than genuine concern for the charity.
Yeah, it just adds to the fractured relationship and the conflicting narratives.
So when you break it all down, what's the main issue here?
Well, it seems like there's zero trust left and two completely different versions of what happened.
Exactly. Two very different stories.
Chandauka is saying that she raised legitimate concerns about how the charity was being run and was punished for it.
Mm-hmm.
But Prince Harry and the former trustees are saying that her leadership was the problem, that they resigned for the good of the organization.
And it also seems like there were major differences in opinion about where Sentebale should go in the future.
Oh, how so?
Well, Chandauka was reportedly pushing for more African-led projects and more fundraising in the United States.
Right.
And that shift in strategy seems to have caused some friction.
It's not unusual for organizations to have different ideas about where they should go, but it can definitely lead to tension and power struggles.
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to fundamental questions about leadership and how resources are used.
And we can't forget about the clash in leadership styles.
Right.
Some people describe Chandauka as dictatorial, which probably didn't sit well with the other trustees who expected more collaboration and shared decision-making.
For a charity to be run effectively, there needs to be transparency, open communication, and a good balance of power among the board members. If someone seems like they're being too controlling, it can destroy trust and make it really difficult for everyone to work together.
And then there's the central issue that keeps popping up.
What's that?
Prince Harry's public image.
Right.
Chandauka argues that it became toxic and hurt the charity.
Yeah.
But his side totally rejects that idea.
It's a tough one.
It is the link between a famous patron and a charity's success is complicated.
Yeah.
A well-liked patron can bring a lot of good things.
Right.
But if there's constant bad press, it can have a negative impact no matter how the people involved feel about it.
And let's not forget about the very serious allegations that Chandauka has made.
Right.
Claims of harassment, bullying, bad governance, mismanaged finances, and even a possible cover-up.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of things that the Charity Commission will be looking at very closely.
Exactly. And the fact that they are involved now with a fact-finding investigation into Sentebale's governance shows just how serious this situation is.
The Charity Commission doesn't get involved lightly. Them being involved means that the issues are serious enough for an independent review and maybe even some action from them.
And their findings will probably be key in helping us understand the truth behind these very different stories.
Absolutely.
There's also been talk in the reports that Prince Harry might think about coming back to Sentebale.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but only if Sophie Chandauka isn't involved anymore.
That would be a huge change.
It would, and it shows how deep Prince Harry's connection to Sentebale is.
It does.
It also suggests that the current standoff is really about the chairwoman's leadership.
Right.
So whether he comes back or not probably depends on what the Charity Commission finds and if any legal battles are settled.
That makes sense.
And finally, when you look at the timeline of everything, like when the charity was started back in 2006, Harry stepping down from his royal duties in 2020,
right.
Chandauka becoming the reported financial audit, that Miami trip, her whistleblowing complaint, the trustees trying to replace her, and then Harry and the other trustees resigning, and then all the public accusations and the legal action that followed.
Yeah.
It shows how quickly things escalated.
It really does. It's like watching a conflict unfold and fast forward.
Yeah, it clearly shows how internal disagreements within a charity, especially when you have famous people involved, can quickly blow up into a public crisis.
And that can have serious consequences for the charity's future.
Exactly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Sentebale situation, it's clear that this is a really complicated and multi-layered issue.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
We've tried to lay out the main accusations and counter-arguments as they've been reported by credible sources to give you a structured overview of this ongoing story.
This situation really makes you think about the challenges charities face when they have big celebrity endorsements.
It does.
Like, how do you balance the power of their public image and their personal relationships with the principles of good governance and achieving the charity's mission?
It's a good question, and it gives you a real look at how internal disagreements, especially when you have people with strong opinions and big public profiles, can quickly become very public.
Yeah, and that can really undermine the whole point of having a charity in the first place.
We encourage you to think about all the different perspectives we've talked about today.
And keep an eye out for any findings from the Charity Commission.
Yeah.
Their investigation could shed more light on this whole thing.
In the end, while we don't know what's going to happen to Sentebale or its former leaders,
Right.
what's happened here really stresses the importance of being transparent, accountable, and communicating clearly to make sure charities are run effectively and can make a positive impact in the long run.
I couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll be back soon with more insightful looks into the world of philanthropy and social impact.
Looking forward to it.